Well, it's 6 o'clock and it's like church. It's all of a sudden quieted down, so that must mean it's time to get started. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance with the flag back there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming on such a beautiful night. I'm hoping in 2 weeks we can do this outside. That would be like fun, wouldn't it? So we're all in happy mood. The sun's shining, so thank you all for being here. Let's start with the reading of the school board meeting norms. Amber.
Be prepared, be on time, value and respect each other, exercise thoughtful deliberation and conversation, be professional at the board table when visiting with the general public, speak up when the norms are not being followed, and advocate on behalf of students and keep the community in mind.
Thank you. Let's move on to item 2. It's approval of the agenda, which is electronic page 1. Ms. Galatch, do you have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
I do not.
Okay. Can we get a motion and a second for the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dr. Shab. Do you have a second? Second by Dave. Assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Let's move on to item 3, which is celebrating success. There's a packet, electronic pages 3 through 31, and we're honored to have Mrs. Parkinson, our Discovery Elementary School principal, with us, along with a lot of special guests, I think. So thank you, Allie, for being here.
Good evening, members of the board. When thinking about what we wanted to share tonight to celebrate Discovery, we thought about the Discovery student and all that we do for students each and every day. You have in front of you the first slide in your packet, which is an overview that highlights our efforts at Discovery School. We're proud of the many creative ways that we ensure that all students have opportunities that are academic, support their social and emotional needs, and also extracurricular opportunities. The areas listed on your first slide are in no particular order, but are meant to just be an overview that summarizes all of our efforts at Discovery each and every day. But for tonight's purpose of celebrating success, I'd like to narrow our focus and highlight the equity, inclusion, and belonging bubble that you see on this slide, specifically narrowing in on the belonging area focus. Simply put, relationships are at the root of everything we do at Discovery. We believe if students feel loved, connected, and safe at Discovery, then we can layer in all of those other areas listed on your first slide. It's no secret that we're a big school, and even with 550 students, we are really proud of the relationships that we build with all of our students. So tonight, I'd like to share a specific example of what belonging and inclusion looks like at our school. And I'd like to specifically recognize the extraordinary efforts that many people go to ensure all students' needs are met. I could give you many student examples of what this looks like, but tonight I'm going to focus in on a student named Everly. Everly is a special first grader who overcomes obstacles that you and I couldn't imagine each and every day. But when you meet her, you'd never know. Everly has a team at Discovery School that help her every day, and this team consists of our school nurse, Nurse Wanda, her classroom teacher, Mrs. Peterson, her UAP para, Miss Kristen, her special education teacher, Miss Hyder, IDC coach, Mrs. Melland, many who are with us here in the audience tonight. This team works closely with Everly's family, interacting daily, all with the same mission, and that is to ensure that Everly has a sense of belonging and safety at our school. So tonight, I brought with me Everly's mom, Erin Peterson, to share about Everly's school experience. I think there's great value in the school board and our community recognizing the unique ways that we serve all students. I also think that there's much value in knowing about Everly's disease. Prior to knowing Everly, I had never heard about MMIHS, and for the past 2 years, I've learned so much. Knowledge is power, and knowing Everly's journey is also powerful. Given the rarity of Everly's disease, I feel like tonight is also an opportunity for all of us to be educated in hopes that there will one day be a cure. So I'd like to call on Discovery parent, Erin Peterson, to the podium to share a little bit more and celebrate.
Hello, my name is Erin Peterson. Thank you, Allie, for such a warm welcome, and thank you to the school board for allowing me to be here tonight and share our story with you. When Allie asked if I would speak to you about Everly and inclusion in schools, I don't even think she finished before I said, yes, please, because it truly is an honor to be here in a room of people that's so passionate about education, and to be able to tell you what a great job you are doing. So thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. So I would love to spend just a little bit of time explaining Everly's medical journey to you, and then the rest of the time kind of talking about the topic of inclusion in the schools, specifically related to our Everly. I promise you I will try to make this short and sweet. I do have to say it's a bit of a challenge when I'm talking about two of my biggest passions, which is my daughter and education. So I will do my very best. So this is Everly. Everly was born with a very rare and life-threatening disease called MMIHS. There is currently no present cure for her syndrome. When she was born, we were told by the doctors that the rarity is 1 in 240 million, and that we had a better chance of winning the lottery. And I always say I've thought about that quite a bit in the past 7 years, and I think the ironic thing is my husband and I, do in fact feel like we did win the lottery with this sweet soul who has taught us so much about life. So I will share a little bit about that with you today. So basically, MMIHS, her syndrome, affects the motility of the bladder and the gastrointestinal system. So there's lots of different things that this affects with her little body, but the main one is her inability to eat food. Her body just simply cannot tolerate it. And so instead, a supplemental nutrition is delivered, it's called TPN, straight into a central line catheter in her chest, right into her bloodstream. For 16 hours a day. And so that is where she receives all of her calories. And so if you look at that picture, it's kind of hard to see, but that backpack, the bottom picture with the hat on, you'll see a little cord hanging out, and that is where she receives all of her nutrition for 16 hours a day through her central line. And so I would say there's many, many other things that MMIHS affects, but this is probably the biggest, is her inability to eat food. Her torso also houses, besides her central line, a G-tube for medication administration and an ostomy to help her body from abdominal extension. So another way this affects her body is she is unable to get wet without extreme precautions because of her central line. So anytime she's bathing or swimming, she's done this one time in her life. We got to let her experience water, which was quite the thing. But it doesn't come without extreme precautions, making sure her body is safe. She's had 7 surgeries in her little life, and she requires around-the-clock care and monitoring. We, for insurance purposes, one day had to add up all of the different medical supplies that we use in one day to care for Everly, and it's over 100. So she has quite the extensive medical schedule. So the next slide is an example of a 24-hour period with Everly. This is her medical schedule. So as you can see, about every 4 hours, she has some pretty extensive medical things going on where she is on her back, a lot of times needing to stay still with a mask on. And it's quite something that her little body, she'll just lay there and just be so good. And because it's a lot of things that you have to just be very careful with. And you will see on there 2 of the medical times are during school. And so I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like and how we're able to do that during the school day. Along with her medical schedule, she has quite the team of very specific professionals to care for her complex body. We see doctors everywhere. We have some in Grand Forks. We have a couple in Fargo. We go to Sioux Falls every quarter to meet with her team there. Omaha every other year to meet with the transplant evaluation team. And then she has a collection of therapies, as you can see up there, that she's taken part in her life. So to say that we have a huge respect for the medical field is not taken lightly. So I'll kind of go backwards a little bit regarding Everly's journey. So when she was first born, we knew pretty quickly that something was going on with her body. Something was not working, her body was not working properly, and nobody had any idea why. So she was about a day old when she went in for her first surgery to try to fix what was going on. She spent 4 months in the NICU in Fargo and in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She had 1 more surgery on her little body during that time, and so many tests, pokes and prods. Every day they would come in and try something else because nobody had any idea what was going on. There was one doctor there that had talked to one of his colleagues out east and told him about her symptoms. And this doctor out east said, it sounds like this really rare syndrome I've heard of one time called MMIHS. And sure enough, it was, and he saved her life. So the diagnosis was scary, but at least now came somewhat of a plan. So if on the left-hand side there, you can see, so my husband and I, we were trained by the doctors in Milwaukee, Wisconsin to complete all of her cares. So at that time, Everly had her central line in her leg. So that's a picture of me learning how to unhook her from her TPN. So Brody and I both learned how to take care of this little baby, our first, our only. No parenting book. I have not found yet a parenting book that has taught us how to do these things. But the medical care there was great. They taught us how to take care of her on a 24-hour schedule. And at that time, we put her in her car seat for the very first time at 4 months old and took the 10-hour trip home. Off we went to embark on the biggest and scariest journey we had ever been on. And although our journey is unique, both Brody and I really wanted to and still want to give Everly life experiences and somewhat of a typical life. So we've really tried hard to make that work. So you can see up there that third picture, we had taken our first trip to the cities, and it's hard to see, but we have, I think there's 3 at that time medical backpacks hanging on my stroller that are attached to Everly, weighing a total of 13 pounds. And so for 16 hours a day, anywhere we went, those bags were attached to either Brody or I, Everly on the other end. So the next couple of years, Everly spent many, many days in the hospital. She had multiple surgeries, tons of medical appointments, therapies, various ambulance and plane rides, tons and tons of pokes and prods. So to say that Everly has certainly endured some medical trauma in her life, for sure. But through it all, she continues to fight with a little smile on her face. So for the first couple of years, Everly unfortunately spent a lot of time feeling really yucky. We were still trying to learn about her body. And socialization was really hard because she had a 13-pound backpack attached to her and mom or dad very close behind her. Any type of sickness, we had to stay far, far away because any type of fever means an ER visit, pokes, prods, night stays, all of those things. So the first couple of years, she didn't get out a lot. We stayed pretty close to home. But I come from a family of educators, and so a lot of our time at home was spent teaching Everly about the world, because she loves to learn. So here is where Discovery Elementary is inserted into our story. Being an educator myself, I value a quality education, and I wanted that so badly for Everly. I remember when she was 3, sitting with the early intervention team and talking about her transition into school. And I remember just tears running down my eyes and just me saying, I just want her to be okay. And, oh man, I will read this word for word, because it kind of just sums up exactly how I feel. So it says, when Everly was first diagnosed with MMIHS, the doctors had never heard of it and knew of no others like her in the world. We were given the one outdated article published on this syndrome at the time, one that I could never stomach finishing. What would her life be like? Would she ever get to experience school? Would she have friends? These thoughts often occupied my brain as I sat rocking Everly in the hospital chair hour after hour. Fast forward 7 years, today Everly headed off to a school she adores, into a classroom with great friends, and spent the day with educators who work so hard to care for every part of who she is. So right now, Everly is a full-time first grader at Discovery Elementary, and this is not something I will ever take for granted. I think about it every single day, when I drop her off and when I pick her up. This school of people have created a safe space for Everly where she feels she can belong, and this is all Brody and I could ever ask for. So for Everly to be able to go to school, she requires a collection of accommodations. Here are some of them. So she is on an IEP for other health impairment. She has a full-time UAP. Kristen is in the back here, and we'll talk a little bit more about Kristen. Allie makes sure that whatever class she is in, she has afternoon gym, because she goes to school hooked up with her little backpack. And so for her to be able to really take part in gym class, the best way is unhooked. And so that's something that Allie has done a wonderful job with. Everly has a modified lunch option. I did say she does not eat for calories, but she does love the experience of food. So you'll notice she'll lick food, take little tiny bites of food, and just as a first grader to be able to be a part of the experience of lunch. But because she does not eat much, her other senses are heightened. And so smell and hearing is quite something for her. And so Allie this year, she made this an option where Everly gets to go into a separate room with her UAP, and she gets to pick a student each day to go with her. And lunch has turned into one of her favorite parts of the day. Socialization is also part of her IEP, so this has really been a time that I've noticed her little personality flourish as well. So modified lunch is a great option for her. This year she has a visible schedule on her desk so she can see what's coming next. A lot of her world is scary unknowns, especially when we go into the ER. Sometimes they end up in surgery. She ends up in surgery, that kind of stuff. So she has some trauma related to that. So to be able to know what's coming next is important for her. She has a consistent care room at school, so I come in the morning at 9:30 every day to complete the first chunk of cares for Everly, unhook her so she's free from a backpack. She's also catheterized every 4 hours. I empty her belly, give her her meds, also empty her ostomy bag, and then in the afternoon, this has been a big step this year that Everly now has let Kristen, the UAP, complete some of her afternoon cares, which I'll talk about. A huge step in her world. And then she always has water available. Sometimes, when her swallowing mechanism isn't the best at times, so water helps with that. And then just from missing school, whether she's sick because her body isn't working well or because she's come to the room to get unhooked by me, sometimes she needs to take some work home, and her teacher, Mrs. Peterson, is really good about sending that home and letting her do it and bring it back the next day. So So these are a couple of the accommodations that make learning such a successful place for Everly at Discovery. So accommodations, they don't magically fall into place. It is Everly's, I say they're her dream team that has put this plan together so she can succeed. And her dream team is made up of just wonderful people, principals, special education team, educators, her UAP, nursing staff, staff personnel, families and friends, and the community. I've always said that it takes a village to raise a medically fragile child, and we are so, so grateful for the village that we are able to have at Discovery. So now I'll just talk a little bit about our village at Discovery, first going with the principals, Allie and Chad. I remember, Allie, talking to you on the phone before school a couple years ago, and Allie said to me, "What do you envision for Everly? What do you want this to look like?" And that meant so much to me because she just listened. This isn't a normal situation. It's not a typical situation, and she was okay with that. She listened to us, and she put her expertise to work, and she put this plan into place to make a successful learning experience and environment for Everly, and that meant the world to me. So she continues to go above and beyond and has been supporting Everly and our family ever since. So Allie and Chad, the principals, I am just blown away. I spend a lot of time at Discovery, bringing Everly there, doing her medical cares. Sometimes I'm there 2 or 3 times a day if she has some medical things going on. And I just am so impressed. Every morning, these two principals, they are out in the environment and they are greeting kids by name. They are asking them things about themselves. And you can just tell the kids are so excited to be there and walk into the school, into a place that they feel safe and welcome by the two that run it. And I just, their demeanor is happy, they are present, and they care about kids. And every day, I feel so grateful that I get to be a part of that, that Everly gets to be a part of that, because they just really do a nice job of setting up a building of success for kids. And then they go above and beyond. Besides that, if you look at the next picture, Everly had a birthday party and we invited the whole class. And sure enough, Allie and Chad showed up. And if I would have known, I would have not rented the $300 blow-up bouncy house, because all I needed was some celebrities from school. But on a weekend, they spent time at Everly's birthday party at her house with all the kids. And the kids were so excited, and it meant the world to Everly to see her two principals in this place. So they just do a fabulous job of making this school a happy place for everybody. The special education team. So this is Sydney Hyder. Mrs. Hyder is in the back here, and she is also a key player in our village. A lot of Everly's IEP goals are revolve around social and emotional, because in the beginning of her life, she didn't have any of this, and it's taken a long time for her to get where she's gotten, and it's hard work, and Sydney does such a wonderful job with Everly. She gets to see Sydney on a daily basis almost, and in Mrs. Hyder's room, it's students of all different needs. They get to be together and learn, they belong, and they have so much fun. Everly talks about Mrs. Hyder all the time and loves her time with her. This is a little message that Mrs. Hyder sent me one day, again, going above and beyond, something she didn't need to do. But she said, "Yesterday, Ev commented on some hoop earrings I was wearing. She then was so excited to tell me she got gold hoops from Target this past weekend. She asked me to wear all black and my gold hoops today so we could match. Here's the photo." So this is another example of just teachers going above and beyond, and we're so grateful to have Mrs. Hyder as a part of our village. So then, with the principals and the special ed team support, kind of going backwards now, Everly was off to school. One of those pictures, I see it's not up there, but it's showing me holding a backpack, a very heavy backpack with Everly attached to it. And so when we first thought about school and preschool, number one, she could not move without me holding her backpack, and number two, she would not let me leave. She was, very scared of anyone because she wasn't sure if they were going to poke her, if they were going to send her to surgery. And so this school, again, went above and beyond and let me be a part of this first experience with Everly at school. And I will say I've served in a variety of educational positions in the past 20 years, and being Everly's para for that 1 year is the one that I will forever be the most proud of. She came to school very timid, very shy. She was scared. I couldn't even go set her bag down and go a couple feet without her not loving that experience. So it took a lot of time. But the staff was welcoming, accommodating to both of us. They were patient and understanding, and they let us go at our own pace. Year 2, COVID hit. So you talk about a little girl who is struggling with socialization. She's getting somewhere, and then COVID. So COVID was tricky, extra scary when you're dealing with a medically fragile child, not knowing how her body will react if she were to get it. So we were pretty much secluded to our house, besides Brody, my husband, going to work. The teachers, again, they worked so hard to provide online learning opportunities for Everly so she could feel included in the day. It gave us routine, socialization, and some familiar faces, which really helped to make that year go smoothly. Last year was Everly's kindergarten year, and they say you'll never forget your kindergarten teacher, and I think this is probably true. Mrs. Sage I could not have imagined a better kindergarten year for Everly, and Mrs. Sage was a huge part of that. Everly can be really scary on paper, and it's just, I always have such a warm heart for people who are able to see beyond that 50-page paper of this is what MMIHS is. So for a teacher to just welcome her with open arms and see her as this little person who just wants to be a part of the world is really, really special. And that is what Mrs. Sage did her kindergarten year, is welcomed her with open arms. An important part of this year, that second picture, is Everly and I at her school teaching her peers about her syndrome. So we brought, you can see that tube is an intestine, pretend intestine, and we used beads and kind of showed the class how her body works differently and why she wears a backpack. And I'll never forget this. One of the last things that one of the kiddos said, Everly, we talked about how she's kind of a superhero because she eats with her heart. And I asked if they had any questions, and one little boy raised his hand and said, "Wow, Everly, you are a superhero." I'm like, oh, if we could all just have that heart. They've always been so accepting of who she is, and I think makes it so much easier for her to be able to teach them and come to school with a backpack and a cord, because not everybody has that. Another kiddo raised their hand and said, "Oh, I was born with that too." I don't think so, but so kindergarten was Everly's first year with a professional who was not me by her side. So Kristen is in the stands here, and Kristen is her full-time UAP, and oh, are we grateful for Kristen. I've told her over and over again that she is not allowed to leave. She is going to be there until we are done. But yeah, Kristen is just amazing. She comes, she greets Everly at the door. You can see Kristen holding her backpack as she's walking in the door because Everly has her backpack. Kristen is in constant communication with me about things throughout the day if I need to come and do something, any questions she has. And she just has this demeanor that Everly loves. She trusts Kristen. And Yeah, they are a great little pair. And I think it was harder probably for me to let her go. You know, I've spent 6 years literally attached to her, and to see her walk in school with her little backpack and her cord and Kristen was a mix of emotions, most of them just so happy, but, you know, a little nervous and scared because I'd never done that before. And again, the school was just so accommodating and let us go at our own pace. Where the first week I was in there the entire time, kind of training Kristen. The second week I was only in there while she was hooked up. The third week I was in the staff lounge during the day, and then from there on out we kind of transitioned into Kristen taking over. And now, like I said before, Kristen now takes care of Everly's afternoon needs. Before Kristen, Brody and I are the only ones that have ever done her medical cares, ever. And now Kristen does. So you can kind of see how this school really just takes a kiddo and just takes them in and lets them be who they are and just really takes care of them. So very, very grateful for Kristen. I'm done. I'm almost done, I promise. Everly also got a Make-A-Wish trip her kindergarten year. And when she was asked where she wanted to do her wish reveal, 100% at school. She said, I want to do it at school. So she got to go to Disney World and meet the princesses. Dr. Lund was part of the team that did this made this Make-A-Wish happen for Everly. But she wanted to do her wish reveal at school because I always say this is her safe and happy place. And so you can see just the team of people there celebrating Everybody had For Everly t-shirts on. We had the teachers, UAP, principals, nurses, staff personnel, all there to just celebrate Everly. And it was just a fabulous day. One of Everly's coping mechanisms when things are tough is to think back to happy times. And this is certainly a time that she talks about over and over again. So grateful for that day and all that were a part of it. Everly is now in first grade. Mrs. Peterson is here, and man, is she another dream of an educator, one that we will certainly never forget. She is so kind and compassionate. She works so hard, and she cares so much about kids. I just feel grateful every day dropping Evie off, knowing that she's going to be a part of this classroom for the day. I have a Trailblazer ticket taped here. So this is when the kids do something that is either respectful, responsible, or safe, these tickets get sent home to kind of highlight what they did. And Mrs. Peterson sent this one home, that Everly blazed a trail by being brave and crushing goals by telling me that she had to leave for unexpected medical cares. And so the fact that Mrs. Peterson took time out of her very busy day to realize that that's a hard thing for Everly to do and just kind of highlight that for her is a big deal in our world. I took it off my fridge. It was hanging on our fridge. She is another teacher who goes above and beyond. In February, it was Care About Rare Day, so Rare Disease Day, and I had contacted Mrs. Peterson to ask if we could bring unicorn cupcakes, because unicorns are also rare. And, Mrs. Peterson took it to a whole nother level. She messaged the class and had them wear colorful outfits. She spent the entire day talking about unique. That picture right there is Everly explaining to the class what makes her unique and about her backpack, and the fact that she is comfortable at school talking about that is a pretty big deal. Mrs. Peterson also gave her a water bottle at the end, so it was just it was so special for Everly to leave with a big smile on her face and just love the day of celebrating that we are all unique, we are all rare, and it's a beautiful thing. So so grateful for Mrs. Peterson, and she just does a great work with Everly, and Everly loves her and trusts her and loves to go to school. Her nursing staff, Nurse Wanda, she is wonderful, and Nikki is another UAP, so they are also in the building. They've been trained on Everly, who she is, her body, her cares. They take over in the classroom when Kristen goes to lunch. And beyond that, they always are looking for Everly, saying hello, asking her about things, just making sure that communication is still there, that friendship is still there, so Everly feels comfortable. Just the other day, Nikki came in and we've started training her on some of her afternoon cares in case Kristen were to be gone that day. So they are also part of Everly's village and do such a wonderful job of caring for who she is. And then the staff personnel, these two, Katie and Beth, they are in the front office, and you couldn't pick two better people to be there smiling and asking kids about themselves and just greeting people for the day. They just do above and beyond work, and Everly and I are both so grateful to see their faces every morning. And then on the right side is another staff personnel who works in the lunchroom, and Everly was selling Girl Scout cookies at Lowe's, and she was working there as well. So she came over and said hello, bought some cookies, and now when Everly brings her little friend to the lunchroom to get lunch before she goes to her own room, she comes by and says hello, and again, goes above and beyond, something that she doesn't need to do, but goes out of her way to make kids feel happy and safe at school. So it means a lot to us. So that's quite the collection of people working to make school a positive experience for all, and I could sit here all day and tell you everybody at Discovery who does such a great job of making kids feel welcome at school. So these are just a couple of the many. So in conclusion, I am a true believer in teaching to the whole child. Because of Everly's village at Discovery, her social, emotional, physical, and academic needs are being met so beautifully. Her personality has flourished. She is no longer this timid personality with limited social experiences. She is enjoying school dances and color runs, birthday parties with peers, and extracurricular activities around town. So she is being taught to embrace who she is and to celebrate her unique qualities. There is no better feeling than that of genuine happiness, and every child deserves to feel this. And every day I pick Everly up. This is the last story I'll tell, but I always say, "How was your day, Everly?" And she'll say, "Mom, it wasn't good. It was great." So, in conclusion, my husband and I, along with Everly, we could not be more proud to be a part of this school and this district, and we thank you from the very, very bottom of our hearts for including us. Thank you very much.
Aaron, thank you so much, and Brody is always such a man of so many words. Brody, yeah, thank you. Before you go, we always open it up and ask if any board members or people have questions or comments. Go ahead, Dave.
Just a few quick things. First of all, thank you for sharing your story and trusting us with your story. I also think you hit the lottery, finding Century and our district hit the lottery too. And the final thing I'll say, just a sincere thank you to everyone involved for reminding us and working to ensure that all means all.
Thank you very much.
Other questions or comments from board members? If not, thank you, appreciate it. You can stay for the whole meeting, or you can go home and have supper.
It's date night for Brody and I. We actually have a sitter, so I just
Please.
Although I do have a daughter back there, and she has to stay for the whole meeting, I've told her, so. There you go. Thank you again. Ally, thank you. Well, let's just call it a night after that. That's kind of as far as I'm concerned, so. Let's move on to item 4, which is approval of the minutes. The March 28th minutes are there, and I forgot to write down the electronic pages. I think it's 32 through 34. Any additions or corrections to the March 27th minutes? Seeing none, can I get a motion and a second to approve the minutes? Who moved? Moved by Bill and second by Josh. Assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 5 is public comments. I have no cards for public comments. Let's move on to item 6, which is superintendent's recommendations for discussion. 6A is referendum update, and we have, is Kyle here? I thought I saw him. Oh, there you are. I'm sorry. There were so many people out there. Kyle, thank you from ICON to give us a little update. Appreciate it.
There we go. And we have just a few things that we wanted to share. See if is it on there? Yeah. Keep going. I'll just keep going. All right. Thank you, guys. There we go. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the help. Appreciate that. So thank you for allowing me to come and just give a quick little update. I've just got some of our materials that we've been using and some of the things that we're sharing. So just wanted to kind of talk through some of the stuff that we've developed and then take your questions and see, kind of give you an idea of where we're going and see if there's any comments or questions that you guys have for us. So what we've discovered as we're going through this process is that we have a lot of information, and the most important thing is how do we get that information into bite-sized chunks to where people will actually read it, and that if people want to dive deeper, how do we make it easy for them to get to that information and make it as transparent a process as possible. So you'll see the first item, the first flyer on your left, so that is an item that we've printed a couple of them and have them at schools, and the plan is to have them at all the schools here soon, so that anyone entering in the front office would get some quick factual information, and then if they're trying to get more information, they'd be able to just go to the website and seek that out. There's a lot of common questions we're getting on, what's included, why security, how much is this going to cost me? So we've got some quick options for everyone to get that information and get those questions answered. So as you can see, that first on the left, that's just a general, here's how we got here, here's our challenges, here's the things that we're addressing, here's our public meetings that we have coming up. We have the ability to have childcare available for the public meetings, so you can go and scan that QR code and sign up for that, and then more information, and then just a general layout of what the site looks like with the New Valley on that site, so that, again, if you just want to say, well, what are they doing? Where is it going? How are trees coming down? How does this work? All of those, if you could just glance, you can kind of see, okay, well, that's where Valley is now, and that's where it's going. We've got plenty of room between Valley and the park. We're not touching any of the trees in University Park. So that item of information that also was what was sent out to folks in the postcard that went out. So again, just making sure people can get just the very most basic information, so that, if they're trying to just, how do I find out more? How do I see what my tax impact is? It's really easy to get to. So that information, again, was sent out to every address in the district's database. So hopefully folks got that. That was, would have arrived maybe 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, something like that. So I guess I'll pause there before I go to the next kind of series. Any thoughts or questions? And again, this is just a general overview, kind of catch-all sheet.
I don't have a mic, but you say you probably repeat the question. Is all of this on the public, on the website, the school district website?
Yep.
Or will it all be on the school district website?
Yep, great question. So the question was, is all the information on the school website? We've been working with Tracy Gents and the communication team, and we have so many different versions of this website up that you can almost accidentally get to it. So if you go to the website, there's a button right up the top that says Referendum, New Valley Referendum, or just Referendum, actually, I think it says. But you could go to gfschools.org/referendum/vote/May 16. You could actually go to Referendum and spell it wrong, and it'll still get you there to where you can go. And Tracy thought of everything. She did an amazing job on that. And so it will get you to that main page that has some of this information, and then it lets you drop in on the sidebar where we'll dive into some of these other items that are covered. So yeah, everything's on there. The calculator's on there to see what your tax impact is. It's all, and even the renders and things that I'll show you here in a second, they're all on there.
Any other questions for Kyle about this part before he moves on?
I have a quick question, Kyle. Do you guys have a way of tracking that? Like, are you getting good, are you getting responses on that website? Are people stopping in and seeing it? Do you have anything like that there?
You know what, that's a great question. We haven't asked to collect analytics on it, but I'm sure that's something that we can do. We have been getting different questions, and we're adding those to our FAQ document. So it's two versions of that. And if you go into the website again, you can click FAQ, frequently asked questions, and you'll see just a growing list. And then there's even a PDF, and that's a PDF that if someone was curious and they wanted to print it out, they could go and look through it. And every time we get a question that maybe where it's outside the scope of any of our answers before, we add that. And just last week we added 3 more questions to it. So yeah, it's just been growing. So we have that general sheet, and you'll see the next few. What we're going to do is we have a few targeted flyers that we are going to distribute. They're already online, but we're going to distribute those in small numbers to the different schools, front offices, really anyone that has questions or wants to get more specific information, so to allow us to dive deeper, but then still have kind of that bite-sized chunk so that people can see, you know, we've got the next thing you'll see there is the 10 challenges. So, you know, how do we distill in a quick fashion? You know, we have that big poster, we have all this information online, but how do we show something that, you know, that's still a lot of text, but at least we're trying to break it up in a way that you can read the bold, and you might accidentally still, you know, get some good information, and if you want to dive deeper, you could. So we're going through these next series of flyers and be swapping them out every week and a half, 2 weeks up until the vote, to just get some fresh information out so that parents coming in, staff coming in, anyone that's curious online could go through and see, you know, how do we really simplify what are the issues at Valley? And so there's our 10 challenges document that we spent a lot of time kind of ironing out. The next thing you'll see there is safety and security. There's been a lot of discussion on that. You know, you know, the safety and security is not that there's not something happening, it's that what's the next step? You know, what's the next logical thing as a school district that you guys can do on top of the cameras, on top of the ability? I mean, you do have controlled access. Sometimes is it remote? Sometimes there's line of sight, but what's the next thing? And that's what we're saying now, is that not only is there improvements in notification, improvements in the fire alarms and fire suppression, or fire alarms and alert systems and communication systems, but let's create the physical barrier that slows people down and that deters people. If there's something that, you know, we could take away from the horrible events that have happened recently, was that there was a pause at the presentation of a physical deterrent to enter a school. So more than ever, and we've been talking about this with the you know, all of you guys in the committee for quite a while now. This isn't something new. This is something that we're doing. And so what we've got here is a breakdown of, here are the things that we're talking about covering. Here are the things that we would implement with that $18 million on top of the secure entry. And then there's a 3D kind of example of, you know, here's how a visitor would enter the secure vestibule. You'd get out of the weather, out of the elements. You'd be visible to the front office. You'd hit the button. They would see you, allow you to come in. You'd check in, and then you'd be granted access to enter the school, either supervised or unsupervised, depending on, you know, the circumstances. So again, how do we show it in a simple way? And then you can see the front of Valley right there, where, you know, they've got that controlled access, but it's a remote, not necessarily always a direct line of sight access. So how do we make it better? What's the next logical step? And as you can see there too, there's a QR code. You'll see the common theme. We love QR codes. I think if there's one thing that COVID brought back, it's the QR code, and we really appreciate that. But if you go, you can go to gfschools.org/May16, or you could even go /security, and that will give you this basic information and then take it even further. And there is tons and tons of information on all the steps that the district is currently doing to secure our students and staff, and how this is just, again, the next step in that plan. So if anyone has questions on what's happening, how are you protecting my students or your students, you can go and you can see, you know, the 461 already, don't quote me on that number, but there's a very large number of cameras already active in all of our schools. There's already control mechanisms. Let's just take it to the next level. And we'll show you in a little bit, we've actually got an animation that animates this entrance, so you can see what that's like to actually experience going through this. And this is modeled after under construction elementary school in Mandan that we're doing right now. So the next piece, and I've got just a couple of these and then I'll stop, is just tax impact. So just like security, let's just dive deep into tax impact. So you can see in the blue text, there's an example of a Grand Forks County tax statement. You've got the boxes highlighted in the blue or the gray to show you, okay, if you're looking at the blue number, go plug that blue number into the calculator. You're looking at the gray, plug it into the gray. And what's great is you could go again, gfschools.org/tax, and right there, it'll take you right to the spot where you can enter this all in, and everything's color-coded, the examples are there, you plug it into the calculator, and the tricky thing that we deal with on all of our projects is ballot language uses taxable valuation, but that's an arbitrary number that is part of the calculation, but we're accustomed to true and full, which is the closest thing to maybe your market value. So we want to make sure that if you plug in your home and it says you're going to be paying $25,000 a year in tax impact, you might have the numbers flopped. And so, if you see something and it doesn't seem right, that's why we have this up here. And worst case scenario, reach out to the school and ask and see if we can get that clarified. Because you shouldn't see something where, as a residential home, you've got this, really large tax impact. That might mean that if it's thousands and thousands of dollars per year, that maybe you might have the numbers flip-flopped. So again, tax impact calculations, QR code to get more information. And then if I could get maybe somebody to assist me by clicking that link. Thanks, Dave. Ooh. Wouldn't that be something if it was like a Rickroll? There we go. So here's that secure entry. So again, walk up to the school. It's unlocked exterior doors. Get people out of the elements, but get them into a spot that you are controlling. So those doors are only unlocked when school's getting in or getting out, letting in or letting out. And then this door is locked. You'd hit the intercom. Then you'd have access to the front office. And then from that point, you'd have to check in. And then you'd be allowed access into the secure door into the actual school. So a version of that is what we're proposing for every elementary school, all the middle schools, high schools, every school. And even Discovery, which has something very similar, we would actually make a little bit of a change to move where that push-to-talk entry is and move it inside of the vestibule. Oh, thanks, Dave. So that's another video, again, that's on YouTube, that's accessible, that's an item that we can share. And if people are curious what a secure entry means, you can see the diagram, and then you again can actually flow through what that looks and feels like. And so I think this might be our last piece, is just to talk through the schedule. So it has been kind of a whirlwind. Dr. Brenner has, on some days had 3-4 meetings in a day. I've been fortunate enough to join him on a few of the public meetings. We've had our first public meeting in Valley. We're going to have another one in Valley. We have Red River on Thursday. So all of these meetings, you can see kind of plotted out where we're engaging all the different staffs, PTOs, community groups, and then we've actually, this will be our third appearance on KNOX tomorrow, that Dr. Brenner and I have been joining the NOAA's show, and it's been an experience where what's great is that I don't think anyone's calling in and saying you nailed it 100%, but there's some really good constructive commentary around, are you building it, big enough? Is it too big? Please explain why. How did you get here? Please explain what security means. Please talk about how you're paying for this. Talk about how you're calculating the taxes. Lots of good questions, which we always appreciate. It's fine if people don't agree. We just want to make sure we're passing on that information. And we also want to make sure that, at the end of the day, we're hopeful that, again, I think I told you this, that people are inundated with information. The goal is that there's no way they couldn't have known about this, because we're just getting out there and talking as much as we can. So between that, we've got the public meetings, we have a calendar that we're working with Chris and Tracy and the communications team on making sure that the poster materials, that first sheet that we showed you, is just kind of outside different events that are on school. So if someone's walking through, they have the opportunity to stop, look at the QR code, look at what's going on, get some more information. Again, we just want anyone that's interacting with the school to have the opportunity to see, hey, this is going on, and aware of the dates. We've also been working with PTOs on creating little, almost 10-second little clips where they're just reminding people to vote. We're not asking people to vote yes, to vote no. We're not even asking people to do anything beyond just please remember to go vote. For us, we think that's really the most important thing. Right, wrong, or indifferent, just vote and have a good showing there. So with that, we've got and it's a little hard to see because it's white, but here is the conceptual graphics on what the school could look like. We were discussing, what does the size and space potentially represent on that site, knowing that we haven't gone through and met with all the staff yet. We haven't done design. This is just a middle school sized space with the amenities that we had talked about with our design group, with the level of quality and fit and finish that we think is a proper blend between something that's going to last a long time and provide lots of natural light but not be over the top. So you can see here, this is the entrance, and I'll go through there. I've got 3 or 4 of these, so you can go through and see. But this is the parent drop off on the south. You can see the trees that are kind of on the left. That would represent potentially where University Park is. That's actually a little close, but you could imagine we're hovering maybe above the tennis courts right now, and that's how you're going to see this kind of view. And then from the north end looking south, or northwest end looking southeast. Oh, that's right on the screen there for you. You can see, bus drop off on the north side, this central common corridor that is your common area, your cafeteria space, your collaborative space. What's really great is that, we aren't really designing a cafeteria anymore in the traditional sense. A one-room cafeteria just isn't how you do it. That space is used for so many things now that you get such a good bang for your buck, and that it's not a space it's busy for 2.5 hours a day and then you're done. It's a space that would be full of life, the entire day. And then you can see the closest wing to us would be potentially the 8th grade wing, and then the one a little bit further would be the 7th grade, and then 6th grade on the other side. You can see the gym, lots of discussions. Again, it is a gym-sized box that could be one really large gym, or it could be 2 gyms that allow you a little bit more separation. We heard, kind of loud and clear from the design committee that they'd much rather have 2 smaller gyms than 1 large gym, and that's something that we've talked about, and we're not worried about that at all. But there is a 2 gym or large gym sized box right there for folks to see. And then here, if we just flip around the other way, so now again we're kind of looking from over University Park. You can see right in front of us is with the 7th grade wing, 8th grade wing. You can see a courtyard there. We're going to have the opportunity for lots of natural light. You can see, these spaces right here are really mimicking how Discovery is set up with your common area learning pods almost, and your teams within 6th, 7th, and 8th grade would all have their own home base. They'd have this great collaborative space that would serve as their space and their way to, their place to call home. You come in here, here's your entryway, kind of right again off the south, and going right to the offices. You'd have your main office right here. So again, you're walking in, and if you are not a student, you're walking in and going directly into the secure vestibule and then into the office, not into the school itself. And I think we have one more view. So again, just getting you, here's the student entrance. Bus drop-off is over here. Here's your staff parking. We're effectively doubling the parking that's available right now. I'm really excited to get those people off the street and free up the space for the neighborhood to have a little bit more flow and be a little bit smoother transition for not just the students and staff, but for the people that just live in the neighborhood. So that's what we have to show is just, again, a general idea of this is what the space could look like. We have to go through design, but this is about the size. This is about what we're expecting. There's no underground parking. You know, we're trying to make sure that this is ultra functional, understanding that it needs to be, you know, flexible and have great daylighting, and then, you know, be hardy and stand the test of time. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Kyle. Could you send that slide deck to Cindy so she can send it out to all the board members? Because we haven't seen this except right now. Cindy has been very gracious. I would say that we have lots of key competencies, but getting presentations to you guys early has not been one of them. So, you know, Cindy received it today as we were making changes, and that is actually already outdated. We've added some more things onto it. So we'll for sure, you can have this already, and we'll get it sent more often. Perfect, thank you. Let's open it up to questions, comments from board members. Cynthia.
Could you go back to the one that said looking northeast? Because I have a question that I've gotten, and that is along North 20th Street. That's where closer in is where the school is now.
Yep.
Right? And so the question that I get is, how much park space are you losing? And the park district agreed to this, and my answer has been, and you can tell me if this is wrong, my answer has been two things. First of all, I've said, well, the goal here is to keep the school working while we're building a new school. But then I don't have an answer for, well, what is that? So now I see green space. So are we losing a lot so what's that space going to be like?
So it's kind of hard to see, but it's on, you know, the bottom of that general flyer. And then if anyone has that question, it is on the postcard that got sent out to every address, has this image. So I could say that the location isn't final. The intent is to try to preserve as much of that space as possible. If you look at the way the school is laid out, where it's very dense on purpose, so that you can travel easier, and then also so that we can preserve the green space. With the parking, that is the thing that we are adding, is we are bringing a little bit more parking into, you know, I would say the area. But the goal is to try to preserve or you know, as close as possible, just mirror the amount of land that they had before and the amount of land of green space they'll have going forward. There's still a lot of decisions that have to be made to finalize the design, so it's not final. Even that, you know, you can see it's got that watermark that says conceptual layout. You know, we have to engage a civil engineer and go through all of this, and it could be that the building turns or moves or shifts 10 feet this way or this way. We don't know yet.
It was the postcard that prompted that question. And so there's not a loss of the University Park space then?
Oh, we don't touch the University Park at all, but where the softball fields are, that's where the swap starts and takes place. So as far as University Park or trees at University Park, we're not touching that at all. We're talking about going where the softball and baseball fields are.
That's helpful.
I think that's where some of the confusion has been out there, is people think that those softball fields are part of University Park, and they're not part of University Park. They're part of the park district, but they're not part of University Park. I think there's some confusion about that. Other clarifying questions? Go ahead, Bill.
Just to clarify that, the infields of those diamonds are parkland, the outfields of those diamonds are school land. So that's where the confusion gets. They think that sidewalk is the difference between park and school, and it's not.
Okay.
It was just put there because it was a nice spot to put a straight line, you know.
Appreciate that from somebody that knows.
We do that. Park District has done that. The University of North Dakota doesn't do that. They just run them anywhere they want, so.
Other clarifying questions or comments?
If I may.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
So my other question is, or comment, is for the website, the main website. You know, you do see the word referendum. I don't know if there's any thought of changing out the video that's been up all year, to just, even if it's not a video, but to have a banner that says referendum May 16th or whatever. I've seen that website or that video plenty of times. So I don't know if there's any thought about that.
Yeah, I would completely agree with you, and that's something that we think we have to decide. I think that's not my decision to make, and I think that a few weeks before the vote, I think you'll see some things change in how we're delivering, and potentially that could be timing for that messaging.
Catherine?
Yeah, I just want to thank Kyle and his team for being responsive. We've continued to throw ideas out, and he, along with our communications team, as he alluded to, have continued to take those ideas and thoughts and put them into those digestible bites. So I just wanted to thank you for your ongoing commitment and all the long hours that you've put in. It's been really a phenomenal partnership. One of the things I want to reiterate is the safety and security component. There's been some misunderstanding that is only for secure entrances, so I appreciate the fact that you illustrated that tonight, that it's in addition to the secure entrances, we're looking to bolster our internal communication systems, and many of them are quite dated, and with that sort of increased technology, which allows for fluency in response time from our emergency responders, internal communications that are just-in-time communications, updates on where, a danger might be so that others can respond accordingly to get themselves safe, is really an intricate system that costs some dollars. So I just wanted to make sure that the community knew that it was not just the secure entrances. Those are a critical part of it, but there's much more to that price tag.
Any final questions, comments? Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, Kyle, have you and Dr. Brenner had a chance to schedule a meeting with the Herald editorial staff?
Yes,
so you can explain, especially to safety and security?
I think that's at 3 o'clock tomorrow, 2 o'clock tomorrow. So yes, on the nose. Thank you.
Well, Kyle, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. You have a good evening.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item 7, which is superintendent's recommendations for action. 7A is consent agenda. It's on electronic pages 36 through 47. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
A motion by Dr. Shab, second by Bill. Assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. 7B is waiver of years of experience and appointment of Ann Arneson on electronic page 48. Ms. Galach.
Thank you, Dr. Lunn. You'll see on page 48 a memo from Dr. Brenner, and I will read it in his absence. It reads as follows. Ann Arneson has been offered the position of ELA, which is English Language Arts teacher at Schrader Middle School, effective July 1, 2023. As a hard-to-fill position, the school board, per the teacher negotiator agreement, may allow more years of experience to be brought into the district with an external applicant. There's language there on how it is written into the negotiated agreement for your reference. Given the aforementioned, the administrative recommendation is to allow 16 years of experience to be brought into the district by Ann Arneson and to approve her teacher appointment. Should be placed at $64,123, which is master's plus 15, step 17 on the schedule.
Clarifying questions or comments for Catherine? Seeing none, can I get a motion and a second? Motion by Joel, second by Jeff. Assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you. Let's move on to item 7C, which is the summer school program. It's on electronic pages 49 through 88. Dr. Lewis.
Thank you so much. Last year, many of you asked us, is there things that we can do to further the elementary summer programming in the month of June? You also asked, can we do some afternoon programming for introduction to kindergarten? So you're going to see some significant additions in the summer programming that we have at the elementary level, as well as an additional program for Valley Middle School tonight. It's with a bit of sadness that we're saying goodbye to Kevin Onstead. He will still remain, obviously, the principal of Phoenix Elementary, but he is ready to have his summer back. So, and we are absolutely thrilled that he has just been fantastic in helping with the transition. He has so much historical and present-day knowledge, so I really wanted to thank him for all of the years of service that he has, and I'll miss working with him in summer. However, I'm very excited to introduce Evan Peterson. He is very excited. I'm probably a little more excited that he is transitioning into the role. And today I got a very nice text message saying, should I present at the board? Do you want to, Dr. Lewis? And I said, let's chat. And he said that he would prefer if he got to watch us present this tonight, and then he's going to be very ready and excited to present in the fall on all of the findings. So I hope I do this well for you.
Can we still ask him questions afterwards?
I told them, I said they're going to have plenty of questions, so yes. So with that, I'm excited to kick off. Some things you'll recognize as the same and some you'll see different. So tonight, you're going to hear about elementary, as we talked about our Valley Middle School summer program, and I'll talk a little bit about the why behind that, as well as all of the additions. Kayla Erickson is going to talk about our robust encore summer programming, and then we'll turn it over for middle and high school summer school, as well as summer performing arts. So our elementary summer school, this part, I will say, looks a little bit more traditional of what you have seen in the past. So that will be offered June 5th through June 23rd from 8 to 12 with our literacy and math focus. There's some change here, however, that last year we really used our English language arts and math curriculums very deliberately in our summer school programming at the elementary level, and we'll be doing that same even deeper focus this year so that our students will have that opportunity to have review of the grade level content. Some will need a deeper review than others, and then having that extension. As a reminder, this is our second summer that elementary summer programming is open to all students, not just students who are identified as needing remedial support. So we wanted to really have those extensions from our current curricular resource that we built into our summer programming. Here are our locations. This is going to look different. I'm going to talk about Ben Franklin and Viking to begin with. Ben Franklin and Viking will both be offline this summer for very good reasons, that they're both having significant construction projects. So those two schools will be paired. Ben Franklin will be at Century Elementary, and this is for elementary summer school locations, summer school program in June, as well as Intro to K. And then you'll see that Viking will be held at Kelly Elementary. The question might be, why are we pairing the other sites? We have struggled, as I talked about earlier, that we really want to have fidelity with our curricular resource and really have that in-depth student achievement results, particularly for our students that we see that have the significant gaps. However, when we have schools like Lewis and Clark, Phoenix, we're seeing that we're having to combine grade levels because of the low enrollment. Then what happens? That nicks away at your fidelity because you're asking a teacher to teach reading and math in 2 or sometimes 3 grade levels at a time, and that really takes away that purpose around that. So we are looking at combining sites. Lake Agassiz and Discovery have large summer programming enrollment, and you'll see in your memo has the historical numbers there. So we really work to keep these numbers very similarly, and to be honest, having Ben Franklin and Viking offline, that really served as a good catalyst for us to combine some other sites. We are, in our summer school enrollment, we are asking the families of the sending schools, so that would be Ben Franklin, Viking, Lewis and Clark, and Wilder, if they are in need of transportation. We do have our contract with Dietrich through June 30th, so what we will be looking at based on needs is a variety of options, looking at shuttling students from their neighborhood school in the morning, and then running a shuttle back in the midday and a shuttle back in the afternoon, late afternoon, and I'll talk about why we have those two. But it's really going to be based on what that looks like for each school's enrollment, but we will work to have transportation, so that's not a barrier there. I wanted to talk about our introduction to kindergarten that we have. This is from July 31st to August 11th. We have It looks like we've shortened it, which we have, but there's actually a bonus week. So the number of days is the same, and the programming can actually be longer as families choose. We had a number of issues that we were running into with that third week. The first issue was some of our kindergarten teachers are new to our district, and then they were either missing new teacher orientation, or we would have to find subs, and that just really caused us to have some struggles. Secondly, that runs right up to almost the start of the school year, and some of our kindergarten teachers were saying, can we have just some time to really have some turnaround time instead of those 3 weeks to then going straight into it. But we have the opportunity for elementary summer school and kindergarten teachers that want to work that additional week. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. So you'll see really the 8 to 12, what was traditionally our program. And then you will see again, we have these locations are now broadened. The only locations that do not have introduction to kindergarten are Viking and Ben Franklin. Again, we were just too nervous about the construction timeline and did not want to have to switch that at the last minute. We had Kelly Elementary under construction last year, all the way into the fall of the school year with those special education suites that were built out that are wonderful, but that was a really tough time to have students there with that active construction, and it just wasn't beneficial. So that's why we want to ensure that we have enough time around the construction. We want to have our kindergartners having that experience of coming into their school as much as possible. So that's why we're keeping it at that. We also see more kindergarten families opting into that, so our enrollments will hopefully be what we have seen in the past. So that's why you see that broadened grid there of locations. I wanted to touch on the Valley Middle School Summer Rise program. I wanted to recognize Austin there. He is sitting as far away from me as possible because he was nervous I was going to recognize him, and I am. And Austin, along with Lisa Vocek, are going to be really the heart of running our Valley Middle School Summer Rise program this summer, along with Kayla Erickson for the Encore piece. This is brand new to you. It's brand new to Grand Forks Public Schools, but the Summer Rise is not new to many school systems across our nation. This will be June 12th through July 14th. It starts a week later than our elementary because built in here is significant professional development for our teachers at Valley that will be teaching this. We have 169 students is what we are able to accommodate, and that is firstly for our incoming 6th graders that are coming to Valley Middle School. So we will be doing outreach to every incoming 6th grader. Some of that outreach will be more aggressive. For example, I probably won't need the same outreach for Amara that maybe some of our families where we see aren't traditionally represented in our summer programming that we really want to have. So we're going to have some very deliberate outreach for that. As we enroll all of the incoming 6th graders that are possible, then we'll fill those other spots with our current 6th graders at Valley. And this is part of our comprehensive school improvement work. Back in the fall, I had shared about our Title I work and Valley's designation as a comprehensive school improvement site, and that's designation by the state. However, it does give us that 3-year grant that gives us the funding, and not only does it give us the funding, it gives us the ability to and the accountability for ensuring that we're doing something very different for Valley. So you might ask, can we please have this at the other 2 middle schools? It sounds wonderful. We will have a version of Summer Rise where teachers will be getting professional development and pieces like that for the middle school summer programming. Valley needs to have more. So think of the middle school programming will be the cake, and this is the icing to really have this comprehensive school improvement to really see, frankly speaking, those student achievement results really increase for Valley Middle School. So we are very, very excited about the launch of this program. Valley is currently working with Lavinia, who does side-by-side, shoulder-to-shoulder work, and they come out and do professional development and that side-by-side coaching with our teachers and staff at Valley, and it really ensures that teachers and staff have that support from someone that's not evaluative and also someone from outside the building too, and they work directly with our coaches, our administrators, and our staff at Valley. So this is an extension of that as well. So we're just very excited to be opening this up as well. You'll see here, I talked about that 8 hours of PD prior to the start that our teachers have, and then professional development throughout. The consultants are going to be traveling. This is part of the icing. They will be coming to Valley. Valley, by the end of this school year prior to summer, will have 9 days of that side-by-side coaching, teacher development. Then during the summer, they will also have several of those days where it's side-by-side with those summer school teachers and our administration there that not only really works on the summer programming, but also then how do we really cue this up for next year as well as we continue. It's really investing in our teachers, and it's building that confidence for our students as well. Kayla's going to talk about, too, the other part of this. In the afternoons, we will be doing work with our students that's really the encore enrichment pieces, where they will be able to have, what does it feel like to be a sixth grader, to come in and that experience and to have it, even though Valley is not probably going to be the coolest building at this time frame. We really wanted to be deliberate about having it there for the same reason that we have Intro to K in the buildings, is for our incoming sixth graders to really get to know and understand that building well, and just have one less piece that might bring anxiety as you transition to middle school. So we're really excited for the launch of this program. This is heavily funded with our 21st Century dollars, also as we call it in this district, Encore. The 21st Century dollars that are awarded, there's a heavy, heavy emphasis on programming that involves our comprehensive school improvement schools. So we're very excited to have that part of the grant also support right alongside of our CSI dollars. And then here you'll see down to what is that really looking like for our students and their experience. And you'll see again the systematic phonics, those pieces that we've been really working on district-wide. You'll see that really concentrated here. This will also be pieces that will come through in that professional development that I talked about for the middle school programming in general. Okay, now I'm very excited to call
Dr. Lewis, I'm wondering, do you think we could entertain any questions or comments about the first part you have, just before we go on? Just in case, I hate to wait till the end, because
No,
then it's going to be
that's
so, is that okay
Yeah.
if any board members have any clarifying questions or comments?
Tell me, can you hurry up?
No, not at all. This is important stuff. I'm just thinking that
Yeah.
if it was me, I would forget by the end of so maybe we could just open it up in
Yeah.
case they have
Yeah.
burning questions
Yeah.
now.
I think that's great.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
I do have a burning question. Okay, with this Valley Middle School, my question is, are the teachers teaching in that all Valley teachers?
We hope that they will all be Valley teachers. That is our hope. We will staff with Valley, but of course welcome others as well. It just depends on, I don't know that we'll be able to staff it 100% with Valley teachers.
So when your slide says, it doesn't tell us how many teachers. It said 169 students. That's how many are incoming or current, right?
That's how many we can serve through the Summer Rise program. So that would be a combination of incoming sixth graders as well as some current sixth grade.
Well, how many, do you have any idea of how many teachers then you're asking to be a part of this program?
That's more the work that Austin and Lisa are doing as we work directly with Lavinia, because it comes down to the contents and pieces like that in class size. So I don't have the exact number, but that's something I'll put in our Friday focus once we have that. Good question.
Other clarifying, go ahead, Amber.
Dr. Lewis, can you talk about if, what nutrition options will be available, if any, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack?
Yeah, sorry to be a bit redundant here. So we will have breakfast and lunch available at our elementary summer school programming sites, with the exception of Discovery. It comes down to we are able to serve at sites that qualify as Title I sites. You might ask, well, why is it that Kelly is having it? Because Kelly's receiving Viking. So for the elementary summer programming all through June, those will be, breakfast and lunch will be provided. There's a little bit of a mistake in the slides here. For the intro to K, we are not able to provide breakfast and lunch. Our food and nutrition services just does not have the staffing during August. So we're very grateful that they're doing the 4 weeks for June, and then they're doing all of Valley Summarize as well. Good question.
Other clarifying questions before we let Kayla finish, after she got halfway up here? Go ahead.
Sorry,
Monty.
Kayla. I just wanted, I hadn't heard about Lavinia before, Dr. Lewis, and I went out and read about that.
Yeah.
And I don't know from Austin's perspective, but maybe Austin, you could respond to this. And, but it just looks really cool. Are you guys already involved with that?
Yep, and Austin, are you okay if I take this one? Yeah, yeah. Yes, we are, and you know what? That's something that we could definitely bring at the conclusion, like maybe the last board meeting in May, for the Valley team to talk about what that's looked like this year and what that's going to look like for the next 2 years. Lavinia works, I don't want to say exclusively, but heavily with schools that have that comprehensive school improvement category. And while we're talking obviously about North Dakota, that comprehensive school improvement, since that's tied to Title I, that's actually across the nation. So yeah, we would be very happy to have Team Valley bring that information.
That sounded, because they independently look, I mean, if that's their specialty, do they independently look at Valley and look at the strengths and weaknesses that are inherent to that building, and then create a comprehensive independent program?
Yeah, yes, but they use our curricular resources.
Okay.
So it's not like they bring in something different. They work with what we already have and just deepen it, enrich it, really look at the data differently in decision-making. And one of the comments from a Valley team member after their first visit is, a Valley team member said, "I feel like they're used to working with schools that look like ours." And that's really the goal. Yeah, yeah. Lavinia, we embedded some resources in your board memo. So you should be able to click on those. The research around the summer programming is right there. Again, as you've heard me talk about in other venues, the research is for when we implement that with fidelity and we don't color outside the lines and we don't deviate. So you'll see, just like what you heard the last board meeting about AVID, it's really that fidelity, and when done with that fidelity, which Valley has been doing, you'll see those same incredible results as well. So yeah, happy to bring that back as a separate item. Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, back to you, Dr. Lewis, and now we'll finally get to
Perfect. I was hoping you were saying you could skip over me and I'll leave. So I'm Kayla Erickson. I don't know many of you. I live in my relo at community high school. I live with kids after school. So thank you for having me today. I'm excited to show you what we're going to have for summer. Many of you may not know what Encore is, I guess, currently. So Encore is our 21st Century Learning Center program, which is our federal statewide name, but we are actually the after-school program in currently, or as of this year now, every single elementary school. So not only do we have our Title I buildings, but we were able to, we are in Discovery and Kelly now as well. And so we serve about, counting early out days tomorrow, close to 1,000 kids in all of our buildings. I'm probably about 200 staff in total, and thanks to our Grand Forks Child Care Crisis, we have a waiting list in all of our buildings. Hopefully someday we can figure that out, but that's just right now Grand Forks too as a whole. But yes, so we're serving about 1,000 kids every day, which is wonderful. So our summer programming has evolved over the years since I've been in my position. Typically, we've just done an afternoon childcare at a few of the summer school sites, primarily focusing on those with air conditioning, just so that we could stay cool from 12 to 5:30, but providing parents something that they didn't have to try to come pick up at noon, and so we could keep them in the schools till 5:30 p.m. Enter in COVID, we didn't do anything that year, but then the following year we transformed our programming into camp. So we called it Camp Mustang our very first year. Last year was 3 sites, and so we have created a program that focuses on recruiting teachers, service providers, local people to bring in classes, and then the kids get to actually pick what they want to go to. It's really cool, and then we end the day with just some typical just child care. So I'll just kind of show you our program layout here for the next few weeks, or not next few weeks, gosh, I wish it was June and the snow was gone. So our encore sites for elementary will be during the month of June, we will run a 12 to 12:30 lunch and recess with child nutrition helping us out with that. From 12:30 to 4, we will run classes. So we've had gardening before, we've had teachers teach sport classes like basketball, soccer, we've had cooking classes on our own and with NDSU Extension. We've had VEX, we've had Kevaplank STEM classes. We're looking forward to a partnership that Dr. Lewis is helping us forge with Wahoo's and getting some swimming lessons and getting the kids over to the Hislop to do some swimming. We're definitely going to take advantage of the splash park, probably at Valley, in the afternoons when it gets too hot in there. But so we will run 12:30 to 4, and then from 4 to 5:30, we'll just end our day with a typical kind of encore schedule, recess, snack, free time, craft time until parents can pick up at 5:30. And I kind of highlighted our classes. And then because of the shift in summer school only being 15 days, we will run the final week a full-day program so that parents don't have to try to figure out what to do for that final week. Again, same schedule, but just start it in the morning. We'll still do the academic pieces of the morning, you know, a few extra classes. We could do some work with reading and math if we wanted to. And then again, we'll still have lunch for those bonus weeks. Our lunch sites are congregate meals, meaning they will be open to the public. So anybody could come in and grab a lunch at Century Elementary School. And so our staff will help supervise that. And then child nutrition will cater a snack. We will reimburse child nutrition for that snack in the afternoon. So our locations for our encore program will be at Century, Phoenix, Agassiz, and Winship. Last year we ran camp at Lake Agassiz, Winship, and Phoenix and served about 250 kids between the 3 sites. Lake Agassiz tripled from year 1 to year 2 of our model, and so we look forward to that growth at Winship and Phoenix as well. And then Century, we used to have programming there. They underwent some construction, and so it's nice to bring that back to Century this summer. So then with the Valley Middle School program, obviously we want to make sure our kiddos have somewhere to go after school as well. Parents have that resource. They don't have to worry about trying to pick up at 12 o'clock. So we will do a 12:30 to 3, keeping in mind they're middle schoolers. They probably don't want to stay in school till 5. It'll probably be pretty warm in there, after 3 p.m., but we will take them until 3 o'clock. Focusing on, as Dr. Lewis had mentioned, how you use a combination, how to read their schedule, how do they find their class, getting them ready for 6th grade to hopefully alleviate those fears of, I don't want to be a 6th grader, it's scary. I have a 7th grader at South, and that was her biggest fear, was getting lost at South and learning how to use a combination lock. So just some of those classes. We'll do enrichment as well with them, bringing in our gardening, swimming lessons, and just some of our other STEM classes that we could incorporate that our middle schoolers would enjoy. And we are entertaining some further discussion of if parents would need something, like say their 6th grader, 7th grader, or incoming 7th grader do like their childcare in the summer, if we have to provide something for them maybe at Valley or somewhere for those extra 2 weeks when our summer program gets done in June, to keep the middle school students in their spots so that we don't lose them. That isn't definitive or finalized, just something we've thrown out there. And then intro to kindergarten is new for us. We have never done anything with intro to kindergarten. Actually, I take that back. We used to, when intro to kindergarten lined up with summer school in June, then we would have those kiddos join us in the afternoon. But with the switch of intro to kindergarten to August, now we will try this similar schedule to June. They will go to intro to K till 12. We will have 12 to 12:30 lunch and recess, and then different, more kindergarten-appropriate enrichment activities, as well as, maybe some rest time in there, or anything that those kindergartners might need. But we're looking forward to the new challenge with our kindergarten kiddos. And then again, because of the shortened Intro to K week, we will do a bonus section for them of all day care. And as Dr. Lewis pointed out, that is a typo we had, that there won't be lunch that week. We'll just ask parents to provide lunch for Intro to Kindergarten. And then our locations are tentatively, we're planning to be at all of the buildings. Obviously, if staffing or enrollment show us otherwise, we'll make accommodations for either transportation or something to get students together. So we're not, if we don't have as many interested at, say, like Wilder or Phoenix, then we can put them somewhere else. So these are just some pictures from last year. I just wanted to show you. We did STEM projects that they made solar-powered ovens and made s'mores. We have a Let Us Grow stand, if you've ever heard of Let Us Grow, that we were granted, and so we grew plants at Winship. Travis Thorvaldson said he loved listening to it because it sounds like rainwater next to his office with the water filtering through. Some Keva Plank activities and just various projects that we've gotten to do with these kids, and it's been really fun. I think that's it. Okay.
Clarifying questions or comments for Kayla or Dr. Lewis about the various Encore programs? Cynthia?
Not necessarily about programming, I think it sounds great, but registration, how do parents get, how do you get kids registered?
Yeah, so we're gonna send out our June registration and Rise's registration are all going to go out with the school's summer school registration, so it's all in one spot. They can just yes, I need this, or yes, I need that. So we're not trying to send out 4 different forms for all the different programs. And then parents, I guess, have been checking off their interest in Intro to Kindergarten already with kindergarten pre-registration. So after Thursday, when kindergarten registration is, that's when it is, I'll get that list from Tracy and we'll send out parents information about our August program.
Any other clarifying questions? See none, thank you. Let's move on to middle school. And Catherine, you're pinch hitting tonight, I hear.
Yes, unfortunately, Ms. Anderson, who runs the summer school program for the middle level, is unable to make it tonight unexpectedly, so you are stuck with me. I apologize, should do a much better job, but as you can see on the slide in front of you, and there is also illustrated in the memo, middle school program will run between July 31 and August 18th from 8 to 10 and 10 to 12 daily. What that allows for is students can attend both an ELA session and a mathematics session concurrently in the same day, or they can, opt into one instead of the other. We did move the sessions from what formerly was a just after school session in June to a primer session in July through August 18th, and there's been a much better result because kids build some skill, they build some capacity, they get into routines that allow them to flow more fluently into the year. So that is a timing that we have stuck with because it was just a better end result instead of them feeling like they got stuck with more school. It almost felt punitive before. So that's been a really positive addition or a positive tweak. Twining Middle School will actually have its own session this year. That's not always possible. It's driven by enrollment numbers and then staffing. And so they were able to work in a session out at Twining itself, which is fantastic. Just like we've heard before, there might be some sweaty kids, but at the same time, they're very creative in their programming and they'll be able to give them some breaks so that they're doing all right. Since COVID, we used to target students who were scoring traditionally at a certain level on their mathematics and ELA scores, but since COVID, summer school has opened up to all students, and that's going to be the case again this year. So, Cynthia, you asked earlier about staffing and that sort of thing. That will be driven by enrollment numbers. So, Ms. Anderson is in the process of creating those communications and reaching out to families and students to get those numbers built up as we go. I already mentioned that's an ELA and math focus. As Dr. Lewis mentioned, we are really excited to be able to bring all of our middle school, summer school teachers in to experience some of that professional development being afforded by Lavinia. We will not have the exact same resources, but the instructional strategies are key, and those will be going across all of our campuses. So they really hone in on some of those decoding skills, deconstruction skills, that sort of thing for both math and reading. And so we're appreciative that we're able to participate in that PD to just really bolster and even out our experience across campuses. There are ELA teachers, mathematics teachers, as well as paraeducators there to provide individualized instruction. And then there's some additional specialized programming. You've heard Dr. Lewis before and other people talk about Latera high dosage math tutoring. So we have Lavinia, we have Latera, and then if you want to be confused, there's also an EL curriculum called Lexia. So we have all of those words covered, but the high dosage math tutoring really help propel our mathematics scores and kind of drill into those specific skills that kids require. So that's going to be incorporated. There is an EL, which is an English Learners Programming, specifically at South Middle School, and kids will be bused there accordingly. And in grade 6, there's also a component that's similar to that Summer Rise program for Valley, but a much shortened version for all. It's not as in-depth, but they do incorporate some of those back-to-school transition skills because, yes, learning padlock or how to navigate that is extremely stressful, and so it just helps kids ease into the year more easily that way. So I will entertain any questions from that brief overview of middle-level summer programming as best I can.
I think all those program names are actually drug names. They sound like drugs, and in my opinion, all those various names. Questions about middle school programming or comments? None.
All right, well, I will now welcome Mr. Mike Wilbur to the microphone.
Well,
Mr. Wilbur.
Mr. Wilbur actually asked if we could wait till the very end for him to do his. In fact, I think I promised you last year that we would flip this and we'd do high school and spa first. We got to do that next year, so you guys get first on the agenda instead of being last.
Well, that would require me to have the pretty slide deck. So Dr. Lewis builds the pretty slide decks, and we just tag on to that. So the pressure's on. We'll try to accommodate that.
Next year, you got a year to fix it.
Hey, yep, no problem. Mr. President and members of the board, thank you for having us. Mike Wilbur from Grand Forks Central High School and one of the summer school coordinators at the high school level. Just a brief kind of high overview of what we're doing this school year. In terms of getting set up for the summer school session, we typically start registration mid-January, start of semester 2, and then we go through the process of looking at our class sections, which is kind of the time period that we're in right now, and hiring teachers for that. We're anticipating hiring between 14 and 16 teachers this school year. We'll probably have 8 to 10 paras depending on what our needs are with special education. So that's kind of where we're at right now. From a hiring standpoint, we're looking pretty good. I actually was just talking to Catherine a few weeks ago about the prospect of if we can't find a teacher for, let's just say, health, what would we do? Could we have a certified teacher in the health room running the health curriculum through Admentum, which is our online platform? And so we're interested in kind of exploring that more. We've tinkered with it a little bit in physical science already. Our numbers weren't large enough to justify having one standalone section, and so what we would do is, let's say we had 5 kids in Section A physical science and 6 kids in Section B physical science. We actually run the classes together at the same time with the physical science teacher on Admentum. So we've done that. We actually did that last year, and so we're interested in maybe exploring that a little bit more if we have staffing challenges. But for the most part, we've been pretty lucky. I would say we have basically everything filled except for health, and there was one other class that we're still working on at the time, but we're hopeful we'll find somebody. So currently, the slide says 354 students registered. As of today, it's 361, so our numbers are growing. We're anticipating somewhere between 400 and 500 students is typically what we get at the high school level for summer school. You can see the classes we're offering. We offer English, ELL English, speech, world history, a couple sections of that usually, U.S. history, government, economics, physical science, informal algebra, informal geometry, PE, and health. I'd say of all those classes up there, our most popular in the summer are usually PE and world history. We usually run a couple of sections of each of those. Right now, we have 27 sections actually that we can enroll right now. We cap our sections at about 30 students each. And the other thing that we're going to try to do again this year is our credit recovery option. We ran that for the first time last year. We identified any students that had between a 54% and a 63% that failed a class, core subject area, and we worked really closely actually with the Mentor Center. They were a big help. They actually called all the kids that fit into that category, their families, and offered up an opportunity for them to essentially do the last unit of that class in Admentum, the online platform. And so that's typically like 5-6 assignments, and then there's a mastery test. And if they passed those things, then we would bump their grade up from, let's say it's a 57% and you failed and you didn't get the half credit, we'd bump you up to a 64%, which is a D. It's the lowest D you can get, but more importantly, it gets them the half credit and keeps them moving towards graduation. So we're in the process of organizing that right now as well. I have one teacher that's committed and another one that is really interested in doing it, so I'm getting her more information. I've been working with the Mentor Center, and we'll do the same thing. We'll set that up. Last year we did it just for semester 2. This year we're going to try to do it both for semester 1 and for semester 2. So that is the overview. If you guys have questions for me, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Clarifying questions or comments for Mr. Wilbur? Go ahead, Cynthia.
Just curious, what does informal algebra and informal geometry line up with in terms of, is that a class name?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Yep. And so in the past, we actually just made the change for algebra about 2 years ago. We had just put it as algebra, but the curriculum aligned more with informal algebra, which they're not covering content as quickly. And so we've been doing, this is our second year of running the informal algebra class. And the teachers are great. We're really fortunate. We have a full-time math teacher, and then we've in the past been able to hire another full-time math teacher as a para in that room. So the kids actually have 2 full-time math teachers working with them, and it's usually a pretty small setting with 8 to 10 kids. So yeah. Yep.
Monty, go ahead.
Mike, I just have a quick question. So for credit recovery, does that take place on campus at the Mentor Center?
Wonderful question. So it's an option, right? So what we did last year is we coordinated with the library and made sure that the kids all had access to Chromebooks. They could check them out from the Red River Library. And then we basically said, here are the dates that you have to have this done by. And then the 2 teachers were responsible for checking on them, but then they also had access to the Mentor Center. And we had quite a few kids that would go over there. The Mentor Center, if I remember correctly, last year was open, I think it was like a noon to 3 or a noon to 4. And I think talked to Rob and David this morning, and she's anticipating around the same times this year as well. Yeah.
I may have missed it because I do that at my age a lot, but it's just at Red River, nothing at Central this year. Is there a construction issue or something?
So we were supposed to have carpet put in just a ton of rooms last year at Central, but they ran into labor issues as well, and they weren't able to get to nearly as many rooms as they were anticipating. So we started, gosh, it was probably in October or November, saying we got to look at having it at Red River again this year. And then next year as well, they're tearing up all of 4th Street, which is right out the front of our building. So we'll be at Red River for 3 years in a row. One of the nice things I should also add is Jay Hepperly, who's the new associate principal at Red River High School. He's actually working with me, so we're going to kind of split this moving forward, which is great because we'll have people in both buildings, and he and I are going to work together in building the summer school program, and then we'll split time together while the summer school session's going on. So it doesn't matter which high school it's at, you're going to have somebody that's connected to the building. I think that'll be a big strength of the program moving forward.
Thank you. Any further clarifying questions or comments for Mr. Wilbur? If not, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Allison Peterson is here from the Summer Performing Arts, and there's a one-pager on electronic page 76, and then there's something at the table side, which I haven't had a chance to look at from SPA. So we got 2 things from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We are very excited for SPA 2023. Hard to believe when you look outside and there's all the snow on the ground that we're thinking of summer, but happy thoughts, it's coming. So we started registration last week. We opened on Monday, 8 a.m. The day 1 registration count was 531. Last year, the first day registration count was 286. So that was pretty remarkable. Today's registration count at noon, 653. So we are over half registered if we keep last year's numbers, which was it was 975, 978, somewhere in there. So we are well over halfway, which is very exciting. Our pre-K program, we're offering 8 classes instead of 4 classes this year. It was closed in 24 hours, so all pre-K sessions are full with a waiting list for each class. This year for elementary spa, we are going to be split up amongst a couple of schools that we haven't used for quite a while, partly due to construction, and then with some summer school stuff and everything, it just kind of took us back to the way we used to do this in like the late 1990s, early 2000s, when we were kind of spread into neighborhood schools with smaller classes, so we're kind of revisiting that again. We're going to be using Phoenix, Discovery, Kelly, Lewis and Clark, and Century in June, and in July, our classes will be at Red River because summer school will just overlap by 2 days. We are very excited to have our performances this year split again, Red River and Central. We're very excited to use the Grand Forks Central Auditorium again this year. We haven't been able to for a couple of years, but that portion of the school isn't affected by the carpet construction, so we're going to use the drama and auditorium suite. Our shows this year, we're going to do Disney's The Little Mermaid at Red River High School and Mamma Mia at Grand Forks Central. Very exciting. We have auditions in May. We also have a new box office system that we've been using this past school year. We'll be this school year in upcoming production for the last 2 shows at Red River at Central for the school year. We'll continue using that at Spa, and it's been going wonderfully so far. It's just been a dream to have an automated ticketing system. Oh, it's been great. We anticipate our audience to grow again. COVID kind of pushed people away from coming to big events. Last year we kind of saw a resurgence, but this year with the titles and everything, we anticipate that it's going to be a higher audience number again, which is very exciting all around. Exciting for the kids, exciting for the community, exciting for the patrons. All of our other programs are running in about the same capacity that they have in previous years. The middle school, the My Spa, Bands on the Red. We are the EL component, where we send some artists to the EL summer school to have an arts component in the summer school there. And so everything there is pretty much the same. One piece that didn't make it in, because I just found out late last week, and this is a testament to the community. So we rely heavily on grants and donations, and one of the ways that we do fundraising is through Giving Hearts Day, and we just found out that we were second of all all North Dakota and Minnesota charities or nonprofit organizations that participate in Giving Hearts Day, second in donor retention. And so we got a cash award of $4,000 for that, which is going to go back into the programs that the Giving Hearts Day funds are used for, which is My Spa, Bands on the Red, the EL component, student scholarships, everything that is totally donation and grant driven. We're going to put those funds towards those programs. And that's just a testament to how great our donors are and how they see the value in the program. And so I just wanted to publicly say that we are very appreciative of everybody that supports the SPA program. So I'd welcome any questions.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions or comments for Allison about SPA? Go ahead, Amber.
This is just a comment to commend you on all your work over the years. I remember a few years back when you first started, after a legacy of the SPA program being run, and you were tasked with cutting your budget. And you stood at the mic and said, we're just going to make it work. We have lots of supporters. And then COVID hit, and that was another barrier. And so I just, as a parent, my kids absolutely love SPA. I'm one of those that's like 7:59 trying to figure out which button I need to push. But I just want to commend you and your team for everything that you've done over the years, because it's certainly a value to our community. Our community certainly is invested in it, and you haven't had it easy with all the ebbs and flows. And so thank you for all you do and carrying this program through the summer.
Thank you. That's very much appreciated, and I'll pass that along to our team as well.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can't help but comment as well, and this not only applies to SPA and to high school and to middle school and to elementary school and to encore programming, but I think what you heard tonight is a really great example of how our system continues to be nimble and respond to meet the needs of kids. And not one of these programs looks the same as it did last year, nor the year before, or the year before that. And we know since COVID there have been additional needs that have been elevated across our community across the nation. So I just want to commend the creative thinking of all the people here. How are we going to get kids credits to graduation? How are we going to target their explicit skills that they need? How are we going to serve them and get them engaged with one another again? I think it's just a really beautiful example of what we do on the daily, but this time we're doing it in the summertime as well.
And let's face it, it's not the programs that we've talked about, it's the people that are running the programs that make the difference. Otherwise, it's just kind of an empty title. So, any further questions or comments? Thank you, Allison, really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So the district administration recommendation is to approve the summer school programming as presented. Dr. Lewis, Ms. Glatch, do you have any final words you want to mention?
One piece I did want to share is for the Encore program, we are very interested in our staff, teachers, paras, et cetera, that are working during the summer school day program. We will gladly welcome them into the afternoons as well as the bonus week for both the elementary and the intro to K, and we would pay them at the summer school rate of pay, not the Encore pay. So we're very happy to welcome any GFPS staff that want to work those afternoons in the bonus week.
Thank you. Catherine, did you have any? Okay. So the recommendation is there. Do we have a motion and a second? Motion by Bill to approve the program, second by Monty. Any final questions, thoughts? Seeing none, assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Let's move on to item 7D, which is third-party individual entity request for student information from Multi-Health Systems Incorporated. It's electronic pages 89. Catherine.
Thank you, Dr. Lunn. On page 89, you'll see another memo from Dr. Brenner outlining just that, a request to release student education records. You're used to this system. It's part of our new policy where we want to have approval for all entities that have access to personal identifying data for our students. In this instance, we're looking to make an approval to Multi-Health Systems Incorporated. This is a company that administers what's called the Naglieri General Ability Assessment. In past years, we have used what's called the COGAT, the Cognitive Assessment Test. I don't have the right acronym there, but the Naglieri is one that's more inclusive and culturally sensitive for our students. This is one bit of assessment data that is used for things like accelerated programming, if it's mathematics or language arts instruction, so that we really know how to differentiate for the needs of kids. And so the recommendation is to approve Multi-Health Systems Incorporated to receive student data necessary to give students in grades 5 through 7 access to the Naglieri General Ability Assessment Platform as allowed by policy and/or the law.
Clarifying questions or comments? Seeing none, do we have a motion and a second for that approval? Motion by Cynthia, do we have a second? Second by Monty. Assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Let's move on to item 7E, which is policy review, electronic pages 90 through 104. Dr. Shab.
Thank you. We are looking at policies tonight. I'd like to make a motion to approve policy IDC, data protection and security breach, the first reading. All that was added were definitions to that one. I'd make a motion to approve ABAD virtual school as plans are underway to create a virtual school. And I'd make a motion to approve HCAE, disbursement of monies. Notice that was adopted, we'd like to have that effective July 1st, 2023, as we are using a current policy right now. FBA student fees, I'd like to make a motion to approve these FCBA student dismissal precautions, FCBD student custody, and FFG student assemblies.
And just so I understand, that was one motion, not
Well,
7 individual ones.
I wasn't sure how to do it, so I did it all at once with a little bit of explanation.
Okay. Well, we usually just do all 7, and if somebody wants to pull one out, we always can. So we have a motion to approve those policies. Do we have a second? Second by Monty. Just a comment on the virtual school. There's probably going to have to be a little change to that by the time we get to the second reading and talking to Catherine tonight. But we can do that. We can approve it tonight, and then when it comes back in 2 weeks for the second reading, we can make the changes that we need to make. So I would encourage us to go ahead and approve that for the first reading. Any clarifying questions or comments about any of the 7 proposed policies? Seeing none, assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Back to you, Dr. Shab.
Motion to rescind 5110 student attendance and 1103.
Do we have a second for that? Second by Dave. Sorry, Jeff. Questions or comments about rescinding those 2 policies? Seeing none, assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're on to the business manager portion of the meeting. 7F, authorization to call for bids for the sale of a bus, electronic pages 105, 106. Brandon.
Yes, President Lund, members of the board. The school district has in its possession a school bus that had been purchased some years ago, but given its nature as a white bus, not yellow, and no crossing arms, it can't be used to transport children, and so it's currently parked at the north side of this building and is really doing just that. And what we'd like to do is sell that. So this evening, the administration is seeking administration to call for bids in the sale of that property. We'd worked with legal counsel, and albeit no direct century code limitation for school districts to sell this, we feel as though following an adjacent chapter that requires municipalities to follow a public bid process for anything exceeding $2,500, we'd be in best practice to follow that. So administrative recommendations to approve the attached legal notice with one adjustment. I had made a placeholder for myself at the end of the first sentence for the make and model and year of that vehicle. So I would insert, in addition, just behind the word white, it's 2017 Ford E450 SD Cutaway, which is evidently the best way we can describe a small white bus.
Clarifying questions or comments? Go ahead, Cindy.
So Brandon, do you know what, it was 2017, so I know you weren't here. Do you know why the bus was purchased to begin with?
I think, and this is only, yeah.
Catherine seems to have the answer.
Then we will let
Yeah,
Catherine
I'm
speak.
sorry, lifeline here. So I'm most certain this was the vehicle that we purchased when we were facing a busing crisis, and we needed a way to transport kids and break down barriers to school. There was also a challenge just getting, we didn't realize at the time that we had restrictions on using that style of people mover, called it a people mover, and for our students in transition program, we needed to get kids to school. We soon found out that we need to have a yellow bus because they are little people that we were getting to school, and we had other restrictions on the stops and starts, so it was purchased at that time with good intention, and we quickly had to pivot on that.
Other clarifying questions or comments? Go ahead, Dr. Lewis.
Ms. Kolach, as the minute I say this, you'll remember this part too. We had a very special circumstance of a transportation need for a student in a wheelchair that we were contracting out through Dial-A-Ride. And so we purchased that because it had the wheelchair lift. So just wanted to add that component on.
Any final clarification questions? If not, can we get a motion to approve the advertisement as amended? We've got a motion by Jeff. Do we have a second? Second by Bill. Assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Let's move on to 7G, which is authorization to call for proposals to provide gasoline. Electronic pages 107 and 108. Brandon.
Yes, thank you again. These next 3 are very similar in nature. As we approach the end of the fiscal year, June 30, we get ready for new contracts renewal for July 1. This one's seeking authority to call for proposals to provide gasoline for all of Grand Forks Public School District. The state law requires that we take this action annually, and like I just mentioned, our current agreement's set to expire. So by advertising this, we will get responses from area gas stations and also those who serve across state for when that kind of travel is needed. Administrative recommendations to approve the legal attachment, that notice, legal notice authorizing administration to call for those proposals from vendors. And in both this case and the previous one, we'll bring this back to the board for final approval.
Clarifying questions? Do we have a motion and a second to approve this? Motion by Bill, second by Josh. Assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. No. Thank you. Motion carries. Let's move on to 7. I got to see where I'm at. 7H, authorization to call for property insurance bids, electronic pages 109 and 110. Brandon.
Thank you, President Lund. Under Century Code, any service that exceeds $50,000 in aggregate over the course of a fiscal year must be advertised and receive sealed bids and award the insurance contract to the lowest responsible bidder. That's the case here, calling for our property insurance bids. And so the district is looking to renew starting July 1, 2023, and it exceeds, it's anticipated to exceed this $50,000 threshold. So in that, administrative recommendation is for the Grand Forks Public School District to advertise seeking those sealed bids for property insurance coverage. And then this, again, would come back to the school board for final action.
Any clarifying questions from board members? If not, can I get a motion and a second to approve this?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second? Second by Joel. Assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Let's move on to item 7I, which is authorization to call for bids to install LED signs at Red River and Central High School. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Authorization to call for property insurance bids. We did that. Okay, I didn't. I gotta move quicker. Okay. Authorization to call for bids to install outdoor LED signs at Red River and Central. Brandon.
Thank you. On February 13th, the school board approved administration to pursue purchase and installation of these signs outside of Grand Forks Central, Red River High School. Again, this work is anticipated to exceed the $50,000 threshold in each of those projects. And we would like to take this for bid for exactly that reason. Just as a quick reminder too, that this would be paid for through the building fund, and there'd be 4 sponsorships associated with each of the signs. The proceeds from those sponsorships would be split in half. Half of those going directly to the cause to support students and teachers at each of those buildings, and the other half going to repay the building fund until it's paid in full. The administrative recommendation is to approve the school district to advertise and start seeking those sealed bids for purchase and installation of the signs. So the one difference from these previous ones is I'm also asking that you delegate the authority to myself to then receive those bids and then choose the lowest responsible bidder to move forward. The reason for the exception here is primarily due to where we're at in this season to get these signs ordered and make sure they're installed prior to the start of the school year, and as well that we've brought this to board before about the nature of these projects and what we're doing.
Clarifying questions? Go ahead, Dave.
I just have one. Third paragraph doesn't specifically state what happens once the building fund is repaid. Just curious if the assumption is then that all goes to the school, or if we would hold some for maintenance or any other expenses that may come down the road. Has that been a part of the conversation?
Yes, and it has been a part of the conversation. I don't recall if it had made it into formal action of the board, but certainly at the finance committee level, it would be just to satisfy that capital requirement in the beginning, and then the rest, all the funds from the sponsors' dollars would go to the students and teachers.
Any other clarifying questions? If not, the recommendation is to approve the public notice for bids and then also to allow the business manager to receive the bids and award the contract. Can I get a motion, a second? We have a motion by Bill and we have a second by Dave. Assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Let's move on to 7J, which is consideration of received proposals for district copier services, electronic pages 113 through 118. Brandon.
Thank you, President Lund, members of the board. So this is what it might look like when we bring these bids back to you after a result. We are looking to renew the printer copier lease that we have that is set to expire June 30 of this year. And so we went through a process because this was anticipated to exceed the $50,000 mark to get the lowest responsible bidder. On February 27th, school board approved that RFP process, and today we're bringing back those results. We did receive 5 sealed proposals, and they were open on March 23rd. The vendors included Advanced Business Methods, who the current contract is with, Liberty Business, Loeffler, and Marco. All 5 proposals were evaluated against a rubric, which you'll find in the attachments for each of those responses. And they included a couple of the elements listed here in the memo. I did provide a table kind of summarizing to provide a little bit of apples to apples. Just want to appreciate there's nuances in these things, but we think this is the best estimated expense associated with these. And you'll see our current lease is just over $4,400 monthly, whereas we had some competitive bids coming in, and the lowest of those belonging to Marco at just under $3,500 a month. And so it's administrative recommendation to accept the proposal submitted by Marco for copier and maintenance of 31 district copiers, and allow administration then to go through and negotiate the contract that would begin July 1st. It's noteworthy that Brady with Marco might be the most patient person in the audience tonight and who has stuck around, and I think that it's the kind of service we'd be able to expect from Marco.
Clarifying questions from anyone? I just had one quick one. So you said monthly, not yearly. That $34.96 is monthly, right? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other clarifying questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the bid for Marco. Motion by Joel. Do we have a second? Second by Jeff. Assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Let's move on to 8A, announcements. The only announcement I have, we mentioned earlier with the, when Kyle was here, is that there is our second public referendum forum is at 6 p.m. at it just says the Red River Theater. I assume that's the new performance theater. It's the small one. Okay. That's what I was wondering, because it just said the theater. So at 6 p.m. That's the only announcement I had. Catherine, do you have any announcements? Brenda, do you have any announcements? Brady, you got anything exciting for us? Okay.
Oh, is that right?
Huh?
Is that Brady? There's 2 Bradys.
Oh, sorry, yeah. This Brady. Maggie, you got anything for us from the schools? Okay, thank you for being here. It's nice to see no crutches coming in the room, so appreciate that. Board request for future consideration. Bill?
I'd just like to, in the future, have a discussion on cancellation of schools for weather, just so we can all be on the same page before the end of the school year. Nothing critical.
Yep. And that's something we might be able to do through Friday Focus or something, or here, so.
I think a little more expanded than what we got last time from Friday Focus. I think we need to just kind of visit.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Kind of on that same line, is it possible to get any kind of reflection, input from teachers as to how the e-learning days went? I did go to Kelly today for junior achievement, and I asked the kids what they thought of e-learning, and I learned that they got to go to Burger King for lunch.
Dr. Lewis, Catherine, is that something we could get some feedback? Is that something you were planning on doing anyway? Yeah, okay. Any other board requests for future consideration?
I have a question, Dr. Lund. We have a mental health coordinator in the district who perhaps does some pet therapy. It would be interesting to hear from her how mental health is going for our district, what kinds of programming is involved, and how the status of pet therapy.
Sounds good. Anything else? Yeah, good. 8C, school board norms. Amber, how did we do?
I think we did very well.
Thank you. So we are adjourned. Sorry we ran a little late tonight, but we had a lot of good discussion on topics. Thank you.